as well as the efforts to improve the quality of affordable housing, both by educating and learning from models in other communities around the country. This year, we're truly honoring that original intent with our 3 awardees and our focus on the theme of leadership. We together exemplify how the components of the affordable housing system must work in partnership, not only to create affordable housing, but to ensure that it meets its intended purpose, not just a sufficient supply of housing, but housing of good quality, well-managed homes, and homes that improve and support the lives of the residents who call those places their homes. So tonight, we're going to begin at the core of affordable housing. It's residents. Residents are the reasons we do what we do and why we all care so deeply about the impact that we're trying to have in the community. Together, we celebrate resident leadership and the resident voice, both required to ensure our community needs are heard, understood, and acted upon, both organizationally and by our political leaders. We celebrate leadership within organizations that develop, own, and manage affordable housing to serve residents and who are responsible for leveraging and stewarding public resources to do so. And we honor our political leaders who must ensure that community voices are respected and honored, and the public resources are mobilized and systems are aligned to meet the community and residents' needs. So first tonight, we are honoring Elder Julio Basurto, excuse me, this is where I fail. Julio Basurto, and I would like to introduce AHS board member Kellen Macbeth to say a few words about Julio. Kellen, over to you.
Thank you, Jenny. Our first recipient of the Ellen Bozman Affordable Housing Award tonight is given to an advocate, tenant, and affordable housing resident who spent countless hours over the last 2 years working with fellow residents and allies to improve living conditions at the Serrano apartments. Julio Basurto, an Arlington resident since immigrating here as a child from Peru in 1985, is a father of 3, the small business owner of JB Interpreters, a member of the Arlington Schools Hispanic Parents Association, and an ordained elder at Solid Rock Seventh-day Adventist Church. A tenant at the Serrano from 2015 to the summer of 2021, Julio and his family endured terrible living conditions, including mice and mold infestations that raised serious health and safety concerns. After serving as an interpreter for meetings with other Serrano tenants facing similar issues, organized by Janet Valenzuela and the Kenmore Parents Group, Julio became a tenant advocate and leader fighting to ensure that all Serrano tenants had access to safe, habitable apartments and were treated with the respect and dignity they deserve. Julio worked with Janet and advocates from Voice, Bugada, and the Arlington NAACP to seek justice for consistent cases of discrimination, neglected maintenance requests, shoddy repair work, and unacceptable living conditions that threaten the health and stability of many tenants. This involved years of meetings with the property management and nonprofit owner, Arlington County staff and board members, tenants, and other advocates. Despite years of talk but little action, Julio and the residents pressed on with their advocacy until earlier this year, when their dedication and commitment to justice began to bear fruit. They successfully secured the replacement of the property management firm and a commitment to invest $1.5 million in the Serrano apartments from AHC Inc., the early retirement and removal of top leaders at the nonprofit owner and property management firm, the move of Serrano tenants from unsafe and unhealthy units to temporary hotels paid for first by Arlington County and then AHC Inc., until they could be safely relocated to repaired units or other accommodations. They also secured the inspection by Arlington County of almost all units across both Serrano apartment buildings and a commitment from the nonprofit owner to fix the identified issues, the establishment of a compensation process by AHC Inc. for residents who suffered damages over the last two plus years, and a serious soul searching among Arlington County leaders and AHC Inc. leadership focused on how conditions at the Serrano got so bad, why the tenants were ignored for so long, and how to make sure this never happens again. Julio represents the hard work and dedication, often in the face of dismissal and complacency, that tenant leaders must take on to ensure that the promise we make to affordable housing residents of truly safe, decent, and affordable housing is a reality and not just a talking point. Julio, on behalf of the Alliance for Housing Solutions, I'm proud to recognize the dedication you have shown and continue to show to ensure that our community treats affordable housing residents with respect and dignity. We are honored to present you with the Ellen M. Bozman Affordable Housing Award.
Thank you, Kellen, for the award. Thank you for that great introduction. And hello to all of our guests here tonight. I am humbled to be mentioned this evening among the great honorees present today. That was my first thought, is what is my name doing alongside such great names? Then Kellen, we had a call with Kellen, and he explained to me the significance of the work that was done. So sometimes it's good to reflect, but I still say only God can do this. I am known in the community as Elder Julio Basurto from Solid Rock SDA Church. I am a 6-year former resident at Serrano Apartments, owned by AHC Inc, and a current leader with the community advocate Janet Valenzuela, who has done most of this work. We are what you call grassroots leaders. First of all, thank you, God, for connecting our leaders and exposing the hardships of our vulnerable families that were living amidst a pandemic. Thank you, Janet Valenzuela, Jeremy McClayton, Margie Green, and Saul Reyes for being there from the start. Thank you, Bugata Voice, NAACP, and ASHPA members for standing with us. And thank you, County Board and Ann Venecia, County Housing Director, for standing with us for change. Thank you also, AHS, for this award. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Today, we are speaking about leadership and tenant power, a somewhat unknown concept in Northern Virginia, unfortunately, because Virginia favors landlords heavily over tenants. Protections are so limited for tenants that we can't even protect ourselves against asbestos exposure in Virginia. I found this out when I found traces of asbestos in my living room AC unit while it was blowing over my children over a family movie night. Tenant power affects an array of renters and voters, from our single professionals all the way to our vulnerable families. But what is this thing that we call affordable housing? And is it still affordable housing if tenants are required to pay hundreds in monthly fees for pets, parking, utilities, $100 key fobs, and $100 parking tags? Why do we have it? And for whom was it created? And we that need to live in affordable housing because of skyrocketing prices in our area, should landlords who receive the millions of tax dollars, our tax dollars, be permitted to continually discriminate, mistreat, mentally abuse, and allow their properties to deteriorate to such a point where about 30 families had to vacate their units in May 2021 here in Arlington? So many questions. I am not here to highlight the guilty parties that put about 300 vulnerable families at risk at Serrano's Apartments. But then again, it is my duty as an elder and a follower of Christ to fight for my people who come from all levels of education, economic backgrounds, and suffering. Those who travel to the United States in hope for a better life, a just life with opportunity, safety, and bright future for their children to grow. Immigrants from all places, people of color from all backgrounds, and children, elderly, and disabled people who want to live well, just like you and I. But the case is not always so. Vulnerable populations face abuse, racism, economic challenges, job instability due to immigration status, but still have to pay taxes. Some are single parents working 2 or 3 jobs just to access our schools. Others hold grants and vouchers. Others are educated professionals who face academic chauvinism upon arriving to the United States. And yet others suffer with mental illness or disabilities, but have worked tremendously hard to get through recovery, school, life skills, and job training to live in a great place we call Arlington. All these issues are additional mental tolls on these families that they face, along with Arlington's normal requirements and a pandemic. But what does all this have to do with this event? These, ladies and gentlemen, are my people. These are my families. These are our neighbors. These are your tenants, and these are your constituents. These families are what make Arlington the diverse place it is promoted to be today. These are the people in which affordable housing providers you vowed to help. It is in your mission statements. These families are the reason why you were permitted to do business here in Arlington. Their rent feeds your families, supports your way of living. And yet these are the people most often forgotten and disregarded by your staff, leadership, and yes, even your board members with glowing community service resumes. How could what occurred at Serrano Apartment, owned by AHC Inc., happen here in Arlington, Virginia? Now, I promise to pause being an advocate for the purpose of accepting this award, and I will keep my promise, but forgive me if I get off track as I live this. My family faced months of delayed repairs, which caused mice infestation, poor breathing conditions from mold and asbestos exposure inside our AC unit. I have the lab results. Poor handling of repairs landed me in the hospital. We were twice displayed, technically homeless for about the span of 4 months total, with 3 school-aged children during a pandemic. On our second displacement in May of 2021, we were joined by an exodus of about 30 families, filling the hotels of Arlington County, fleeing from poor living conditions at Serrano Apartments. We took direct hits, life lessons. But early on, Janet, Marjorie, Jeremy, and I, Lisbeth, started holding resident meetings, interpreted by me, and began building tenant power immediately. We created a WhatsApp group to communicate and report issues. We took photos and videos. We fought back. We involved the county board to hold AHC accountable. Janet and I, at one point, were so fed up with abuses, we performed inspections ourselves during a pandemic, later joined by voice for the families suffering from bubbling mold, mice infestations, and threats of eviction. We began confronting all that was wrong with Serrano, and once the NAACP stepped in, so did the media, and this blew open to the public. You can find the articles and photos in rnow.com, keyword AHC, to see the photos and the work. We have accomplished many things that Kellen mentioned already. I don't need to repeat that. Things that many said were impossible. But if we thought like that, we would never accomplish anything. But it shouldn't take the removal of a long-time neglectful CEO and senior VP staff to bring needed change. It shouldn't take the media, advocacy groups, and the needless suffering of families for change to happen. People should have listened to us earlier. Leadership should have stood up for our vulnerable. But you know what? That is the past now. What matters now is what you, highly influential persons in the room, choose to do with your power from here on. That is what matters. We forgive the past, but are looking closely at the future. There is still work to be done. We need your support for change. Off the top of my head, we need 1, funding for more county oversight staff for these properties. 2, creating permanent tenant committees in collaboration with the county to protect our tenants. 3, housing providers with proven track records and quality control systems to care for our tenants. 4, equal treatment of tenants, not only at expensive properties, but also our affordable ones. 5, a redefinition or relabeling of the term affordable housing. What does that really mean? 6, replacement of county staff that fail to perform adequate oversight of these properties or follow up on the complaints submitted. 7, expansion of inspections to all affordable housing. Serrano is just the beginning, and we have reports of the AHC properties with severe issues countywide. 8, a just compensation process for our tenants who lost thousands to 10,000s in property damages and pain and suffering throughout this entire crisis. I am very sad to report that once again, AHC Inc. is making a mockery of victims by offering a quarter to a third of the total damages. I didn't want to say that, but it has to be said. 9, a change in AHC Inc. culture where they will have integrity and do the right thing without advocate oversight. This has yet to happen. Difficult conversations have to be had for healing, for justice, and for change to occur. But you know what? Together, we can achieve what others say is impossible. We, tenants, decided to fight back. We created a voice and we said enough is enough. Tenants, renters, vulnerable families, you have a choice to make when faced with abuse. You can choose to take it, or you can rise up and fight back and use all that hurt and all that anger to do something about it. To our many guests in influential positions, we appeal to you to place the missing pieces of the puzzle to expand this work across multiple lines. Talk about it. Even small changes will help the cause. Housing providers, especially owners and board members, we implore you to never forget what you stand for and what has happened, and to change and restructure your way of operating so this never occurs again. With that said, we, tenants, leaders, Jeremy, Janet, and other leaders announce the opening of the Tenant Association Network here in Arlington, Virginia. And we will fight for this cause. And we will ensure that tenant power and tenant rights are respected here in Arlington and in Northern Virginia. Many leaders, one voice. Thank you very much.
Elder Basurto, thank you so very much for your dedication and your leadership, bringing to all of us the challenges of tenants who are neighbors to all of us. We are pleased to recognize your work for pathways towards change, for building the power and voice of our tenants. Thank you very much for those words of reminder and inspiration this evening. As you all saw in the chat, there were also words of celebration and comments in words of encouragement for Elder Basurto, and each of those are saved and will be shared with him afterwards. So we thanked you, all of you who were able to participate in that way. We are now grateful to turn to our second honoree, Nina Janopol.